Coming up, a ministry out of Alabama sets up at one Eastern Kentucky grocery store to cook and serve meals to flood victims, and it's become a disturbing trend throughout the country, officers being ambushed.
Plus, definitely want to throw another blanket on the bed tonight because most of us are heading below freezing. The latest on a chilly night ahead coming up as First at 4 continues.
Mountain News First at 4 continues.
Hello again, I'm Dakota Makris. Thanks for joining us. In the last few months, we have shared the stories of various ministries and even a cowboy who has traveled to the mountains to help people following the historic flash flooding. But one Alabama-based group is a little bit of both of those things. 7C Ministries is set up outside the ISOM IGA, feeding flood victims or anyone else in need of a hot meal. The 7 C's is in the name, stands for Crazy Christians Cooking for Christ Cowboy Church Chuck Wagon Ministry. The group aims to serve traditional chuck wagon cooking and to spread the word of Jesus in disaster-impacted areas.
Tell everybody, if you come, we'll feed you physically. If you stand around while you're chewing and wiping the grease and all that, I'm going to feed you spiritually if I get a chance. If it ain't nothing but tell you Jesus loves you.
Well, 7C Ministries has been camping outside the ISOM IGA since Friday and will be there until Wednesday. The organization serves breakfast at 7:30 a.m. and dinner at 4 o'clock. As flood survivors move into travel trailers, many are struggling with new circumstances. Michelle Reed, who lost her home and is now living in a trailer at Perry County Park, says her family is having trouble finding stability in the new campers as they are reliving the disaster every night.
I'm starting to see the results of it now. It's kind of delayed. There's a lot of nightmares for both of us. A lot of, I guess, PTSD symptoms is what they're calling it.
Reed says the heater in her trailer is broken, so they are struggling with staying warm overnight. We'll have more on this story when you join us at 6 o'clock.
We got some very cold air moving into the mountains this afternoon and into the evening and overnight, and that could even feature a little bit of flurry activity. For us tonight, though, freeze warning in effect for everybody running through tomorrow morning, likely the killing freeze to finish off the growing season as we run through tonight. And you can see skies continue to clear. Few clouds out there, but skies continue to clear. We're at 59 at Buffalo Mountain. So you see those clear skies are really going to help us drop as we head into tonight. There's those clouds moving out for now. You see a few more clouds, though, off to our north. That's associated with a frontal boundary and a little bit of moisture. We'll have to keep an eye on for the potential for a few flurries tomorrow morning. Planning out your day, or at least your evening, 54 within the next hour, 43 by 9 o'clock. And already into the 30s as we clear out overnight. I'll have the details on those flurry chances coming up in a few minutes. Dakota?
All right, Evan, thank you. Well, Governor Andy Beshear and advocates marked October as being Domestic Violence Awareness Month today. People say the abuse happens to both men and women, and many women are living in fear and emotional trauma because of their intimate relationships. Our Phil Pendleton spoke to them about their work to end the abuse at the state capitol.
Governor Andy Beshear and others were in the Capitol Rotunda today. The governor signed a proclamation marking October as being Domestic Violence Awareness Month, stating that there needs to be a whole lot done to end domestic violence. And the word today was that it's not just physical abuse, it's emotional, mental, verbal abuse that has a lot of people living in fear.
But we are not powerless. We can and we must speak out and educate ourselves about domestic violence.
Darlene Thomas is the director of Greenhouse 17, which works with domestic violence survivors. She and others were at the Capitol to state that there needs to be more awareness about what is happening in these intimate partner relationships. Governor Beshear signed a proclamation and was joined by other advocates and survivors who came to the Capitol.
Well, I would tell you, if it was as easy as just leaving, we wouldn't need shelters or programs or Domestic Violence Awareness Month.
These are individuals who invested their time to help us be better and to help other people. The only way we stop these types of crimes is listening to survivors and working with them.
It was stated today that during a recent study done last year that men and women in these awful relationships are learning ways to find hope, to find joy, to find peace after going through such horrid events in these relationships. In Frankfort, Phil Pendleton, now back to you.
Advocates say domestic violence happens more often than current statistics because of the numerous unreported cases. Well, today, the House Oversight Committee released documents showing the Trump organization charged the Secret Service excessive rates on dozens of trips when agents traveled with former President Donald Trump and his family. The panel found the Secret Service was charged upwards of $1.4 million in taxpayer money through 4 years. The agency had to pay more than $1,100 per night at some properties, despite the Trump organization saying federal employees would stay there for free or at cost. Federal prosecutors want Steve Bannon to be sentenced to 6 months in prison for contempt of Congress. A jury found the former top advisor to former President Donald Trump guilty of 2 counts of contempt of Congress in July. He refused to provide documents and testify before the Select House Committee investigating the January 6th Capitol breach. Prosecutors say 6 months is the top end of the sentencing guidelines. The government is also seeking $200,000 in fines. Prosecutors say Bannon refused to disclose his financial records in their pre-sentencing investigation. They say he insisted he's willing and able to pay any fine imposed, including the maximum fine on each count of the conviction. A disturbing trend is emerging across the U.S. Police officers are becoming targets in the line of duty, being ambushed and killed. CNN's Josh Campbell has more.
I'm shot in the hip, my partner shot in the leg.
3 Philadelphia SWAT officers shot last week in the line of duty. So far, 2022 has been an especially violent and deadly year for law enforcement in America.
I'm outraged. I'm disgusted. I'm wondering where the level of outrage and upset is outside of the law enforcement community.
Danielle Outlaw is Philadelphia's police commissioner.
And right now, things are wrong because the level of violence that we're seeing against our law enforcement officers is just beyond outrageous.
Across the country, there have been 252 officers shot in the line of duty through September of this year, according to the National Fraternal Order of Police. 50 were killed. It's a continuation of a rising violent trend. According to the FOP, 44 law enforcement officers were killed by gunfire in the line of duty during the same time period last year, adding up to officers being fatally shot more often than once a week during that time. In El Monte, California, a suburb of Los Angeles, 2 officers were killed this summer as they responded to a call about a stabbing.
They were acting as the first line of defense for our community members when they were essentially ambushed.
In fact, there have been 63 ambush-style attacks on law enforcement through September of this year, according to the FOP. At least 93 officers were shot during those onslaughts. 24 died as a result. In Bristol, Connecticut last week, 3 officers were allegedly ambushed and shot. Only 1 survived. The gunman may have lured them there by making a false 911 call, according to investigators.
Shots fired, shots fired. More cars, send everyone. He's down. One down. Suspect down.
In 2021, data from the FBI showed the highest number of law enforcement officers were intentionally killed in the line of duty since the September 11 terrorist attacks, 20 years earlier. The data mirror a rise in gun violence in many parts of the country in recent years, now rising to levels not seen since the mid-1990s. A teenage gunman killed 5 people in Raleigh, North Carolina last week, a responding police officer injured in the shooting. The increasing violence against police has law enforcement leaders around the country sounding the alarm.
3 of your officers have been shot. What's that like?
It's a pit in your stomach. These are folks that answered a call to serve. They want to give back. We sign up to do this understanding the risk, understanding the danger, but we did not sign up for these jobs to be martyrs. We just didn't.
That was Josh Campbell reporting. Not only are law enforcement leaders worried about their own people, but there's also concern that the recent wave of violence might impact recruitment, which could impact public safety for years to come. Well, coming up here on First at 4, one popular toy retailer is opening their shops at select Macy's locations during the holiday season.
And we're keeping it rather chilly in the mountains as we head through tonight. The latest on when we could see a hard freeze coming up.